I have the best viewers in the world. So we were out at Glamis. And these nice people had a gift for me, and they said if I wanted it, they'd deliver it. What do we got, Jimmy?
You ready?
What do we got?
Only the coolest of cool.
Only the coolest of cool.
It's a Pepsi machine. Not a Coke machine, a Pepsi machine.
Legit.
Yes, sir.
Pepsi machine.
24 pack of Pepsi, but that kind of slipped.
The evaporator coil is the condenser coil.
And there's a little thing in there. I'll show you where this is plugs in.
It has yeah, basically the little wheels off of it, so it rotates that key thing right there. So let's move it on this.
Where do you want to go level?
Now try.
There it is. There.
Money!
Look at it, a quarter right there.
Ooh, that's a long time ago.
So is it cans or bottles or what is
It's
it?
cans.
Cans.
Nice.
I don't know what this does, but it probably serves some function.
We'll just get a washer that'll work in it.
Yeah.
We'll put
That's a good idea.
Put
Put
a
a
little
whole
cups in
Yeah,
there.
just put a whole cup over there.
We'll get washers that cost a quarter rather than make a dime.
Right. Yeah. Instead of using 25-cent pieces, we're gonna go buy some washers.
So a quarter came
Well, if
out.
I
It's
leave-
been a long time since a Pepsi cost
What do you
a quarter,
What do you
huh?
think the year is on that quarter?
Oh my.
let's
74!
I was going to say
2004.
73.
What'd you say?
73.
What'd you say?
2004.
74.
74, Jimmy.
No
Ah,
kidding.
Jimmy
How'd you
got
know
it.
that? You already looked
1974,
at it.
Jimmy.
But I can't pick the winning lottery numbers to save my life.
Jimmy's blinder than all of us.
He threw
have
it in there
some
when
of
we
those
unloaded it.
Yeah,
He threw it. I saw him.
He probably did. He knows this game. He's played it before. Well, really cool. You guys drove all the way from where?
Albuquerque today.
Albuquerque today, but the Pepsi machine came from
Came from Medford, Oregon.
Wow.
and
Down to
then
Santa Barbara.
Down to Santa Barbara. And then I towed it up to Albuquerque and back to you.
because you
So-
missed me on the way to Albuquerque.
That's it.
You were in Ocotillo Wells.
Anyway, we'll get this thing loaded up with Pepsi and get it working and in the shop. And I'll have free Pepsi for anybody who stops
And
by.
I'll be back for it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, it's time to get started on this Porsche project. The 550 Spyder. So this morning, I spent a bunch of time bending some tubing. Got it laying in the car right now. It's kind of hard to see because the sun's shining on it. Let's see if we can see it from this direction. But anyway, it bends in and out there. It bends in back there. It bends up there. I've just kind of been copying pictures I've seen of other chassis. I've got pretty good pictures of the chassis this guy builds for his cars. Chris has a pretty nice chassis program. I don't like the original torsion rear. I want coilover shocks in the rear. I want to lower the car a little bit, mount the motor a little different. I want to basically reinforce the chassis a little different because I kind of want to put this on a track and road race it a little bit. So we're gonna do it up a little different. What I did was I used my 3-inch die on the muffler bender, and the muffler tubing bender is not really rated to bend this kind of tubing. This is 8th wall DOM, and it's pretty strong tubing. I figured if I had to heat it a little bit I would, but I was able to bend it just a few degrees. And what I did was I made I bent a little wire, a little piece of metal, and then every bend on this frame is the exact same bend. They're the same degrees all the way through. I just kept rotating the tubing where I needed it, but I had all my marks on the tubing, so it was fairly easy. So now I've got the tubes bent. What I'm doing, I've welded a brace on the back here. I'm trying to get it secured to where that I can slide the frame out of there, and then we can flip it upside down. We'll build the floor in it first, and then put the tubing across that will mount the shifter and the rear valance. So I've got to cut the valance and put it in the car so I can put a mark on the tubing. And then I've got a couple of tabs that I've put on the front to start mounting the body. Those will get welded from underneath, and then we'll slide this tubing back in the car and we'll finish building the chassis in the car. So the chassis is only going to come out of the car one time, and then it's all going to be built in the actual fiberglass body. So let's get going. Well, feels like I've been welding for an hour or two, but it's only been a minute. I've got her all tacked up at the tubing. It's kind of pretty much a rigid frame now. We're going to slide that out of the body. We're going to get the body out of the way. I'm going to flip the frame upside down, get somewhere to work on it. Then we'll put the floor in the chassis. So the entire floor has got to be fabricated in. There's a little bar that goes down the middle right here for the shifter. Kind of creates a somewhat tunnel and throttle linkage and stuff like that will hook to it. Anyway, once that's in and I have the firewall pieces attached, and it's not really a firewall, it's a toe board more like, we'll slide the frame back in, and the frame will not come out again. The frame will stay in the car indefinitely. We'll finish all the fab work, start gluing all the fiberglass pieces that enclose the chassis, and seal it in. So let's get this frame out of there. That's going to wrap up today. We've got pedal assembly mounted. Looks really good. We're upside down here, but anyway, that's it. It's a dune buggy assembly. It's simple. And I'm going to get some sheet metal tomorrow or the next day and get the floor cut. We'll get it spot welded in. And then I'm going to do some painting on the bottom of the frame. We'll turn it back over and finish spotting the top of the floor, and then we'll be ready to put this back in the body and put it up on basically my little rolling cart. So I'll have it on a little stand And then once it's up on there, I'm going to focus on putting the bonnet on and making the hinge assembly work. And then we'll start in on motor mounts. Once the engine's mounted, we'll move on to wheelbase, setting the wheelbase and putting the front axle in. We're just going to use a traditional Volkswagen front end, but I'm going to narrow it and put adjustable adjusters on it so I can adjust the beam. So we'll get back on it the next day or so. Well, it's another beautiful day in Havasu. In fact, today's the eclipse. Woo, the big eclipse, the end of the world. Anyway, we are back on the Porsche. So I went and had a piece of 14 gauge sheared out. I went kind of heavy on this floor material because I want it to support the seats. And somebody is trying to get a hold of me. Anyway, the seats need a little more strength for this floor, so I reinforced underneath where the pedals are. You'll see that here in a minute with 3/16. But anyway, we're going to get this whittled out. It's pretty close. I just need to trim some edges and notch out for where the pedals go. And then I've got 4 more of these little tabs to weld on. These are the tabs that secure the body to the chassis, and they basically go on even with my little line there. So I'll get those welded on, cleaned up, get the floor tacked in, and then we're going to do a little bit of paint work on the bottom here where it touches the body, because once it goes in the body, it's not coming out again ever. Once you start gluing panels and things like that, you would have to cut the frame out of the body. So I'm going to get most of the fab work against the glass done, and then we'll finish the other fab work in the car. So let's get started. Alrighty, floor's back in. Put a little paint on the bottom. The reason I painted the bottom is because you're not going to be able to get to it. I just didn't want it rusting. I just used bomb can, whatever, Krylon. Anyway, we're going to get the frame slid back in, get some bolts in it. Then we're going back to the hoist. We're going to lift it up, and then we're going to put it on this little stand as the eclipse is taking place. Anyway, in that big bright sky, sun. Way, we'll get that back inside and get it mounted on there so we can roll it around, and then we'll just keep fabbing. We got to put front end in, we got to put transmission, engine, got full mock-up of everything going on. So I'll fully mock it up, not quite to running stage, and then I'm going to blow most of it back apart. And I've still got to talk to good old Robbie Layton about it, but I think I'm going to have him paint the car. So we'll move forward on that when the time comes. Well, we interrupt this normally scheduled program to basically show how dingy it is outside. It's like the moon is moving in front of the sun. It's not spectacular here in Arizona, but it's disruptive. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, pretty soon the sun will be burning bright again. My solar will be making the megawatts, and we'll be on to getting this Porsche chassis in this tub. Alrighty, with some wrestling, we got the chassis in here. I've got it tacked to this rolling stand. So technically it's a roller. I love that. Anyway, I got the bonnet braced up. That's a lot of these. And I'm going to roll this back in here, and we're going to set the angle of these two to build the hinge. Build the cross member, the first cross member there, the hinge assembly for the rear bonnet. So let's just roll this chassis back in here. Oh, it sure is nice to have it on wheels. When I'm tired of it, I'll be able to just roll it out of here. Okay, what are we hitting on? Looks like we're hitting the hoist on that side, so it needs to go back. Or basically the bonnet needs to come forward. Like so. And then maybe down, and then maybe up in the back. I don't know. It's coming together. But I want to build the hinge assembly so that I can establish wheel center line, or wheelbase center line. Okay, so this is kind of a little bit of a problem here. I don't know, it's pretty close actually. I might have to shim it a little here, up or down, to get it to come in, but wow, look at that. That's a pretty cool car. And then I don't know what's going on in here. Oh yeah, plenty of room. Plenty of room for the hinge, all of that. So we'll probably put a piece of tubing across the back, and then we'll build that hinge assembly off of that. It's gonna be a pretty unique little thing, but we'll get her fitted, and then we'll get back on camera here, and I'll show you kind of what I got going on, how I'm gonna make my hinge. Hinge is gonna be a quick release, kind of cool. Set you guys up right here. And there you go. So it turns out the bonnet does not fit very well in the front. I'm going to have to cut some major fiberglass pieces out to get it to slide up where I want the body line at. show you what's going on. Basically, it's hitting the body in here. It needs to go forward a 1/2 inch on each side to close this gap up. So what I've decided to do, because it's going to be such a critical fitment, because I want it to fit right, I'm going to finish mounting the engine, getting the tubing in that is basically going to brace the frame and support the roll bar, and get all that welded and done before I take the time and cut this to fit the bonnet. I think I can fit the bonnet last. I'll just have to be careful how much, you know, stuff I get done. Try not to get too much in the way. But anyway, I think I can make this fit a lot better if I do it that way. Because if I fit the bonnet now and I weld all that tubing in and there's a little bit of frame warpage or other body movement, the other thing is I want to get all these glued in, get them glued and glassed in place, all the panels. That way the body is in its relaxed, you know, normal position. Then I'll mount the bonnet and make sure the hinge is perfect so that basically that gap comes together like I want it to. Another beautiful day in Havasu. Another day of working on the 550 Porsche Spyder. So what I've been working on is these door hinges. These things are brutal. Show you what the problem is. So when this door is on here, the door fits so tight. Okay, there's no way to access the area in here, inside here, where the hinge is. So I'm having a really hard time figuring out where the hinge goes. And what I did on the other side is I kind of just crept up on it. I kind of gave me an estimate off the door where it needed to be. I measured here, and then I was using measurements from here to here to kind of set this, and I did miss a little bit, but these holes are the most forgiving holes. These holes on the front of the hinge that go into the door, they're not forgiving because they drill and tap into a metal plate that is basically hand laid into that door. So what I did, I put 2 holes in here, and then I used this to measure where it should be on the door. I drilled and tapped the door, I put everything together, and I just kept moving it until I got it to work. I did have to re-drill a couple holes. I had it too far forward, this was too tight. But I just drilled 2 holes, put it on, then I drilled the other 2 holes, got it right. Then I slotted the other 2 holes out to where that it would work. I've got that one adjusted and on and tight, and I'll bring you along for this one and show you. I think I've had the door off and on probably no less than 15 times to get this right. It'll probably be a lot less on the driver's side because I learned a lot of things along the way. So other than the door latches, this door works perfectly. So I'm hoping I can get the driver's door to work as good as the passenger door, and let's get started. Well, after some time, we have operating doors. I have to get the bear jaw latches for the rear, but I can hang them later. This hinge, boy, it gave me a lot of trouble. I had to offset it and weld it up, and I really ground on this door jamb to get the door to clear. So there's going to be a little bit of body work in there that's going to need to be done because it looks pretty rough now, but we'll get through it. We'll get her together. We'll get doors that swing, and we'll get going on the hinges for this front trunk assembly, get it to operate like it should. And I'm about ready to put a engine and transmission assembly together to do mock-up for the engine and transmission. So we'll get the mounts made for that.
So today my dad woke up early, not for YouTube, but
It'll be on YouTube.
It'll be on YouTube apparently, but we're getting me married today. And we're driving the Model T. And we have the look for it. It's gonna be awesome. I'll post the whole video for you guys.
Well, it's a new day in the shop. We had a little wedding yesterday. That was kind of cool for Kieran. And today it's time to get back on the Porsche. What I'm working on today is cutting these headlights out. Show you what I got going here. This is a factory VW bus replacement bucket. Normally it mounts, I believe, something like this. The headlights go at an angle on the buses. What we're going to do is we're going to turn this and put these in like so, and use these for like a factory headlight install. What I did was I removed the ring so that I could establish height, and then I made a pattern out of a mini wheat cereal box. Mini wheats, those are good for you, for sure. I scribed my line on where I wanted it. I was holding the ring up to center this. So I think I've got it where I want it. We're going to drill a little hole in it, get a jigsaw after it, cut it out. It's going to be a little bit small, so we'll grind our way into it and we can manipulate it and move it around a little bit. And then those headlight buckets will get glued in with some body glue from the back side so that they can't fall out. So let's get cut. Well, moving on. I put together a bare case. Everything in here is bare. There's no gears, there's no crankshaft. It's just a bare case with the heads hanging on the studs. It's going to be my mock-up motor. And I shoved this piece of pipe through there because it fit kind of nicely. But I'm trying to get center line on my wheels and axle ride height. I want the wheels straight up and down. I don't want them in, if you know what I mean. On the Volkswagens, they kind of taper in. Also, I want this engine as low as I can get up here, but I'm gonna have to raise it up here. So I'm probably gonna end up, you know, with some kind of angle on the engine, because the carburetor system I'm running is so tall that I want it to clear the bonnet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the car around, get the bonnet down on it and look at it, and get my wheel well opening figured out, set a wheel in there and kind of eyeball it, and we'll start making the engine mounts and establish basically the wheelbase, wheel center line, wheel alignment, and I mean there's a lot going on mounting this engine, so let's get on. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a measurement off center line here, which this wheel well opening is 30 inches, so getting that at 15, and then I'm checking my height this way because I want to make sure that center differential is up high enough that I get the proper axle angle so that I have the proper rear camber on my wheels. So I don't like a lot of camber, a little bit's nice. I'm not going to race this car, so I would rather it to look cool than perform cool. So let's raise this hood up and block our transmission up. Well, we got a surprise package from no name.
Maybe there's a name inside.
No name. It's a sharp knife. Let's see what we got. What we got. Oh, that looks like a heater. Is that a heater? That's a heater. Look at that. That's a nice heater. We could put that in something. Where's it from? Doesn't say. Doesn't say who it's from. Another beautiful day in Havasu.
Morning, everybody.
Timmy Gwecky, the world famous.
Nah,
From
my own mind.
Yeah, Bullet Racing.
Bullet Racing.
Bullet
Rusty's.
Racing, Rusty's Restaurant.
What don't I do?
Yeah, what don't you do? That's the shorter list. He stopped by to help me today. We are going to attempt to glue some panels in with plexus, which is what they use to glue their race boats together. Yeah, M530. So this is material used especially for bonding fiberglass, where you can't bolt or glass or do anything like that. So we're just going to hook up an airline and get some sticks ready and start putting this stuff on. Well, just like that, that plexus is cool stuff. I've never worked with that stuff, so it was pretty cool to have Timmy come by here and help me put that seam together. And it was pretty cool to have Timmy come by and help me glue these panels in. And we're going to probably come back and glue 2 more times, but this was stage 1. We got to fit some more panels up front and weld some tubes in, and then we'll do stage 2. So that should make the body a lot more rigid, having that rear panel glued solid. It's actually bolted along the bottom, and these are going to help tremendous, these side panels, and they finish off the interior real nice too. So we'll get back on it here in a minute. So today we're working on the rear suspension and the axles. What I want to do, this is a long tube axle. That means this casting right here is long in position with center line of the vehicle. So they make a short axle for Volkswagens, and this casting is shorter. Well, what that does is when you go to put a wider wheel on, the tire actually hits the plate on the inside. So what I want to do, I want to pull this casting off, and I want to shorten these tubes 1 inch. That way I can put a short axle and use this long casting and get a wider tire under the back of this car. So we're going to get started on taking these apart and shorten them up. Well, I've put the hood back down on it. Still haven't cut that piece to make that come together. I've got 1 inch off on my wheel well. But I was just looking at kind of where my wheel well fits the opening. Obviously this is going to go that way forward, and that'll help with my axle clearance here. And then my shock's going to go here. That's already pre-cut for my coilover, and I like it. So what we're going to do is raise this hood back off, and we're going to take a laser and we're going to set basically the angle of our axles and the alignment, the toe in per se, and figure out where we need to make the towers for the hairpin supports. So let's get her done. Alrighty, so I got my handy dandy Ryobi laser out. Show you what I'm doing here. What I'm doing is using this laser, and I don't even know if this is going to show up on camera, but I'm using the laser to set the alignment of the axle shafts with the center of the transfer case, or transaxle, sorry. And now that I have those set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my height on these, and then set level on my hairpins, and then make that front bracket so that I can mount the hairpins. And that pretty much does the rear suspension. But as you can see, that moved the axle in quite a bit. I'll use the laser here to show you where that's at. So the outside of the body is there, and I am actually right there on my center of wheel. So I'm going to be able to run like almost a 4.5–5 inch backspace wheel. I'll be able to get a full 8-inch rim underneath of this car, which is cool because I can run probably a 9-inch tire on an 8-inch rim, 9-inch tread width, so that should be pretty awesome.